Hey guys, what's going on? This is a video series that I'm going to make for the beginners of Guild Wars. I have some friends that are starting to play Guild Wars, and I thought that a video like this would help them and any other people that are thinking about buying it but may not know anything about the game and want to do a little bit of research beforehand. This video is for you. The veteran players, you probably won't find this very helpful, obviously because you've been playing maybe since launch, maybe since a little bit before launch, and you'll know maybe everything that I'm going to go over in these videos. So when you log into Guild Wars, this is what you'll be greeted with, something like this. Actually, I think it'll be something a lot more like this, and it'll ask you to pick your home world. So once you've picked your home world, I'd definitely suggest doing some sort of research into the world selections, so you know a little bit about each world and you know what world would suit you. If you're more of a world versus world player, maybe look for a world that's good at world versus world, and if you're a structured PvPer, maybe go for a server that is known for its PvP, or a PvEer, go to a server that fits your needs. It's not that much of a big deal because guesting's in the game, only for you world versus worlders and PvPers I think, but for the PvE guys, there's guesting. You can guest to any server at any time, 2 servers in a 24-hour period for 24 hours. So basically, you could make your home world Isle of Janthea like me, and then guest over to Blackgate and play there constantly with no repercussions. So when you've selected a home world, you'll be greeted by this screen. Now, first thing you want to do when you get in here, because you'll be excited and you might be clicking around, you want to create a character. When you've pressed that button, you will be prompted by this screen here. There are 5 races in Tyria, in the world of Guild Wars, playable races at the moment. There are the Char, the Human, the Norn, the Asura and the Sylvari. So a little bit about these races. The Char are a race of large, savage, feline creatures that occupy much of eastern Tyria. They have renounced all gods as false, and instead view all of life from magic to combat with a hard, cynical eye. Their culture has developed into a military state where they are raised as warriors from birth. I should also mention that the Char are one of the races, the only race in Guild Wars, that has a very unique style of running as seen by the clip here. The Humans. Once the dominant species of Tyria, the humans have not fared well in the last few years. Their kingdoms, once spanning the entire continent, lie in ruins, leaving only crater. As the previous threats waned, an even deadlier one, that of the Elder Dragons, has threatened the very existence of the human race. So basically, the humans are humans. There's nothing different about these humans to any other human in any other game. The Norn are a race of 9-foot tall, Nordic-like warriors that currently inhabit parts of Crater and the abandoned Dwarven fortress in the Shiver Peak Mountains. The individualistic Norn live for the hunt, so their tracking, stealth and killing skills make them an invaluable ally in any combat situation. The largest gathering of Norn one can expect to find outside the trading posts is in a hunting party that have united to combat a powerful foe. The Asura are a race of diminutive artisans who secretly dwell below ground for thousands of years until the minions of the Great Destroyer force them out of their underground homes in 1078 AE. Since then, they have adapted to surface life and quickly established themselves as one of the most powerful races in Tyria. The Sylvari are a young inquisitive race of botanical humanoids. The first Sylvari sprouted from the Pale Tree in Arbor Bay. Emerging in 1302 AE, the tree was planted by Ronan and raised by Ventari, who were attempting to escape the violence that engulfed Tyria. So the Sylvari are the youngest race in Guild Wars 2. They're about 25 years old, give or take, which makes them kind of a mystery because nobody knows what they're like at old age, because there is no old age Sylvari, so nobody knows whether this race is actually lives forever. Nobody knows if they age, Nobody's ever seen any young Sylvari because they're born already fully mature. So once you've picked the race that's designed specifically for you, now I suggest you do a little bit more research than what I've given you. I've just given you a brief kind of view on what they are, where they're from, etc. I give more information on the Sylvari because that's the race that I know the most about, because they're the ones that are speculated the most about. I don't really want to go too much into the other races because I don't want to give misinformation. But yeah, once you have chose the race that's perfect for you, you then have to take into consideration that there are 8 professions. So of the 8 professions, I'm going to give a brief overview of each one of them right now. So here we have the Elementalist. Now the Elementalist is a very popular choice for a profession because they're actually very versatile in what they can do. They don't switch weapons like most other classes, which I will get into when we actually get into the gameplay. They have 4 attunements: fire, air, earth and water. All of these attunements do different spells with different weapons, and it is kind of like, I personally have played an Elementalist but not at level 80. I've been around level 60 and I've had fun, but the Elementalist class isn't necessarily for me. So basically how the Elementalist attacks is by using spells. As such, if they're in a staff, if they're using a staff in fire attunement, they throw fireballs. They can make a lava on the floor to do damage over time to an enemy. They have like a damage over time effect that they put on the enemy, and they can call down a meteor strike, for example. Very, very fun abilities, and the gameplay changes from if you use a staff to if you use a daggers, or a scepter dagger, or a scepter focus. There are so many different combinations that you can use with an Elementalist. All of them very versatile in what they can bring to a party. The next we have the Warrior. Now the Warrior is my personal favourite class on the game. I have put well over 300 hours into my Warrior, and basically what you're doing with a Warrior is you're getting right in the enemy's face, you're hitting them with swords and blocking them with shields, and taking great swords and just smashing enemies with them. Every single attack feels like you're ripping holes into the enemy, and I love that about the Warrior. There's so much force there, there's so much energy, and it's just a fantastic class to play. For example, there is a skill where you, I think it's called 100 Blades, where you throw your sword around a bunch of times, and then if you get the full combo off, the last hit does a massive amount of damage. The Warrior is such a fantastic class. But say you don't want to be close for once, you can also use a rifle. Now the rifle is best used for like Zergy combat, where you can't get too close to the boss because he has too many one-shot abilities and there's too many people there to see what's going on. But the Warrior, overall, my favourite class on the game, hands down. So the next we have the Guardian. Now the Guardian would be, stereotypically, if you've played any other MMO, the tank. The one that stands there, that takes the damage, can take a good hit, still stand and deal a bunch of damage back. Now, it's very similar to the Warrior, however the Warrior takes like the most damage, so personally that's why I play Warrior. If you, however, prefer to be there and buffing your allies, or however it's called boons in Guild Wars, boons and conditions instead of buffs and debuffs, basically this is the class for you. You're up front, you can use defensive magic and basically great swords to hit the enemy, but while also using spells. It's kind of like a spell sword in heavy armor, because you're using magic spells to defend, as well as hitting them with your sword, but also using magic spells. You could also go the route of the scepter, or the staff, where you won't do as much damage, but it's for ranged weapons. The Guardian is very fun. The little bit that I have played the Guardian, I've enjoyed it. I may actually level 1 to 80 eventually. But if you like being able to stand in combat distance, buff your allies, so that everybody's having fun, everybody's doing more damage, you're having a good time, you're healing your allies, you're doing all of this cool stuff, you're bringing lots of support into the dungeon, then a Guardian is for you. Next we have an Engineer. Now the Engineer is a very unique class, because like the Elementalist, they can't switch weapons, which might be a bit weird to some of you guys. However, The weapons that they do use is a rifle, a pistol and a shield. They're the only weapons that an engineer can equip, but most people run with a grenade build. There's a specific trait in Guild Wars which makes you, on one of your skills, have a grenade kit, and there's also one for a flamethrower, and turrets. So basically the engineer brings a lot of versatility in the form of he can put up a lot of pressure with grenades, he can do flame damage with his flamethrower. Basically the engineer, I wouldn't know where to put it on any other MMO, but it's kind of fun to play if you like throwing grenades. However, it can get a little bit tedious just mashing one to try and throw as many grenades as you can, just to have the enemy run out of your AoE circle. But I'd definitely say if you've played other characters to definitely try the engineer, because it is very, very fun. It's a completely different experience to any other class on the game. The next class is the Ranger. Now, my girlfriend actually plays the Ranger and she loves it. Now, the Ranger would be compared to any other MMO's Hunter, such as World of Warcraft's Hunter. You get a pet, you use bows, you can use swords though. So the Ranger is very versatile because you can actually use two-handed swords and one-handed swords and still be very powerful. In fact, sometimes the best way to go is with a sword. However, obviously you're in medium armor instead of heavy armor like the Warrior and the Guardian, which means that if you're in melee distance, then you're going to be taking a lot more punishment from not dodging attacks and getting hit by things. But the Ranger, as I said, my girlfriend plays it and she loves it. You get to collect the pets, you get bows, you get swords, you get great swords, you get the war horn you can have. There is a lot that you can do with the Ranger. However, I think in PvP, Rangers are very good. However, I think in PvE they're a little bit weak. Next class we have is the Necromancer. Now the Necromancer is basically a master of the dark arts. They raise the dead, they do conditions, they're basically just like amazing. I have a level 80 Necromancer. I love playing my Necromancer. For a long time I was grinding out fractals on my Necromancer instead of my Warrior just because I wanted a break from my Warrior, because at this point I was leveling my secondary Warrior, which is now my main Warrior, because obviously, if you don't know, I used to play a non-warrior. I got fed up of how big the non was, which sounds a bit stupid, but compared to everybody else, it's too big. I don't like the balance. So I went back onto human, and I think the armor and the weapons and everything look a lot better on the human. So I played my Necromancer a lot during that time, so I've kind of got a lot of experience with the Necromancer. I've done some fractals and a lot of dungeons and stuff on my Necromancer. As you can probably see, if you went back on this channel, I've done some videos on the Necromancer. Basically, he uses conditions. A lot of like bleeds and fears and stuff to go on the enemy and do damage over time. You can be kind of like a glass cannon Necromancer and just do pure damage, but I prefer going the way of the bleeds. You can also be a Necromancer that uses pure minions, where he raises kind of the dead from the underworld and just lets them go to town on everybody. So Necromancers can use scepters, daggers, staffs and focuses. Foci. That's actually a really cool word, foci. I definitely suggest playing a Necromancer. If you haven't already, play one. The Thief. Now I haven't actually got a lot of experience with the Thief. All I can tell you is they're basically any other game's rogue. They attack from the shadows, they use daggers, they can use swords. Basically, they deal a lot of damage in a very short amount of time, but then they have to get the hell out of there because you can blow them up very quickly. If a thief can get open on you and get his opening, he could probably kill you with his opening attacks. Some people like that style of play, whereas I kinda like to be in the fold of things. However, if you like rogues on other games, such as Warcraft, then the Thief would be pretty much perfect for you. The only downside to this is that they're kind of not like any other Thief or rogue that you've played before. I don't know, maybe in other games, maybe in other things, but they can't go into stealth whenever they want. Like on Warcraft, you can basically hit a stealth button, you're in stealth for as long as you want until you engage somebody in combat. The Thief on here doesn't do that. He can cast a few spells to make him go invisible for a short amount of time. However, once he's come out of invisibility, there's a a condition on him which makes him not able to go into stealth form for another few seconds. The thief basically uses swords and daggers and a few other weapons such as pistols and shortbows. Next we have, and finally, the Mesmer. Now the Mesmer is kind of a weird class. I've never really seen anything like it in any other game. They're basically an illusionist. What I mean by this is they basically, with their abilities to do damage, they summon illusions to fight for them. What comes to mind right now is there's a spell on the greatsword, because the Mesmers are actually a kind of spellcaster that use weaponry that kind of warriors would use. They have greatswords and swords, and they also can use staffs and scepters and foci and stuff like that. But basically there's a spell on the greatsword where you cast it and an illusion of yourself comes with the whirling greatsword and does damage to your enemy, as well as this obviously confusing people as to which one you are. If you summon 3 illusions of yourself and then are kind of in amongst them, there's really no way to tell which one is the real Mesmer, which some people really enjoy. So seeing as this is a beginner's guide and people that have never played Guild Wars before, I should maybe explain a few things about the game. Basically, Guild Wars 2 is like no other MMO that I've ever played. There's no tank and there's no healer. Everybody has the ability to heal themselves and everybody has the ability to dodge with an endurance bar, which I'll get more into in later episodes. So with that, basically there's no dedicated healers, there's no tanks, everybody is on equal footing, everybody is damage. Some people really enjoy that about the game, some people not so much. So guys, if you enjoyed this brief but hopefully a little bit informative video, tell me down below. Tell me which bits you'd like me to cover next. Until next time guys, bye bye.